This new work, We the Others, for me, began when I was doing research for a college class that I taught last year at Gustavus Adolphus College. Ironically, the title of the course was called All of the Others. And some of the initial research I did that stayed with me, that I was interested in trying to uncover in the new work, was inspired by a book that I read by a philosopher, Kwame Appiah, who I believe teaches at Princeton. And in one of his books, Appiah talks about the way categorizations in our culture, categorizations having to do with race, gender, age, other issues of identity, sometimes belie our complexities. And his hope was, in writing what he wrote, that people would consider the possibility of how we are more complex than we sometimes identify ourselves as. And in realizing our connectedness, he was urging us to consider our collective identities and therefore a collective sense of being more connected than disconnected. And so that was sort of, for me, an entry play that I was interested in bringing to the company, and I did. And like oftentimes any idea that becomes a jumping off point for the making of art, that idea then has its own detours that sometimes lead away or into other interesting places that the initial idea was not necessarily intended to do or even would have thought that it could do. And I think that's very much where this work is right now.
This work has been developing for over a year, and much of the process has been really about sitting around a table and having the company talk and discuss and reflect and share and at times argue about lots of pretty strong subjects: identity, how we feel alike, how we feel different from one another, what languages in those cases. And it has, of course, been developed also in the studio, but I think the large part of this work has been not on our feet, but actually through conversation. The opening of the work, which I actually refer to more as a prologue, was something that I wrote in the fall when Stuart was in China and Korea. We were trying to start to create material for the new work, but Stuart wasn't there. And so I felt I should just write about that, the fact that he wasn't there, and while he's not there, what are we going to do with this scene? And the language for it came out of the circumstance. So it was actual, what was happening, and it now is the opening of the new work.
I think a core moment in this work that gets very much to some of the ideas that I was initially interested in is a solo that's done by Brian Evans, where he reveals the ways in which he's had to navigate different parts of his life based on assumptions that people have made having to do with his appearance. And to me, that in some ways is sort of goes back to some issues that were of interest to me, that is, the ways in which roles and categories in our society sometimes tend to limit the experiences and interactions that we might have with other individuals.